what would be an example of something like fantasy, like something very fantasy like from people that go into your workshops? Like, what do you see that people come into your workshops with fantasies in mind?
Yeah, and let's see, what do I see? Like there might be one place that I see this happening is people might come in and they have a spiritual practice.
Hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with a spiritual practice. I keep saying that because usually
Yeah.
usually our word comes off a little bit harsh and people
Yeah.
are like, oh my God, I can't have a spiritual practice now and because this guy over here is like and I'm like, oh no. Sorry. Don't mean to be so crude. Or I'm just a little rough sometimes. Okay. Uh
I think it's good. From my guy who has experienced that, I think it's great. It helps.
yeah. I doing my best here. But so then they have a spiritual practice, right? And then then we might look at that, right? What is a spiritual practice and contemplate that? What is it actually made of?
Hmm.
And one aspect of that I've seen where people have, oh, I have this practice and I need to be like XYZ because I need to be on a spiritual path, because I need to be fulfilled as a human being. But if we really look into it and get really rigorous and really honest, oftentimes that is coming from in the person themselves, is coming from a place where they think they aren't enough and
Hmm.
they ignore the place where they don't feel like they are capable of life or they are enough as a human being or any of that in that domain. It's like this undercurrent core sense of themselves as wrong or bad or incapable, fill in whatever negative word you want to. And because of that core, they then engage in a spiritual practice. And even worse, they have ideas about how it's all supposed to go. And if they don't stack up to what they think is the best way, then they beat themselves up for being wrong again. And so it's like a big suffering clusterfuck of a big mess. And the work we would do here might investigate that and really get to the core of that in a real way. Whereas when the fantasies are there, it seems to me it acts kind of like a band-aid covering up the real as if problem.
Okay.
So that would be one example of a fantasy I might see. And the where that conflicts, when I talk about becoming conscious is like grasping what's true or being really honest. um the nature of a fantasy is such that it is pretending something that's not.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, like you go into the fantasy believing it's true or wanting to be true, wanting it to be
totally.
true
Yeah.
when
And
it's not. And
yeah, and it might be a really good fantasy. Like, if we say, well, if you
that
do
actually
spiritual
makes you
work,
feel good.
totally, and right and good and whatever, all this, like, okay, I'm on the right path now. Whew, thank God I don't have to look at this broken stuff or whatever. You
Yeah.
see?
And I'm just noticing just because it makes you feel right and you feel good doesn't mean that it's true. What is true is true. And a feeling is a feeling, right? And I'm thinking about this because I think at some point in my life I used to confuse a lot what felt good with, well, like, oh, this maybe this is what's true, because this is what feels good, but not at all. A feeling, it's just a feeling. It doesn't necessarily, is a truth at all.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. And this actually brings me to like the first thing that I wanted to dive into was this endeavor that we have, most humans, as in trying to fix ourselves, in looking for something, which I think is the main reason why people go to a workshop, right? The primary reason is because they want something in themselves to be different, or they want to change something about their experience. Um,
Usually, yeah.
like you said, to be fulfilled, to be wholesome. And I wanted to ask you, what do you think is at the core of that? And you already touched on that feeling of not being enough, but like, what is that about? Like, why do we not feel enough to begin with? Why do we keep on like searching for that change or or not searching for a change, but why do we think that we need change, that we need, like, that there's something wrong with us? Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's a good question. Why do we think that there's something wrong with us? I'm not sure if I can answer that question completely. But some of the things that I've discovered are, and I'm considering, so I'm going to say some things as a consideration, not necessarily as like, this is the answer, but maybe more, here's something to look at, here's something else to look at, and then maybe open up a consideration about it so that then you can investigate, or the listener, you could take a look and see, because I'm not sure. And what I off the cuff, what I want to say is, I think it's just a mistake. But why do we make the mistake? I think that just happens as growing up, life, boom, run into life. And it seems to me that the way that my mind or my person is set up from a young age, we don't understand what we're doing. We're just making a person happen, and then shit happens, and we somehow we make a mistake of going, because this happened, now I'm wrong. Like a thought.
I see, like a subtle assumption happening, like,
sure, and we don't even know what we're doing. We don't even understand that we're making the assumption. We don't understand that what it is to even make a person happen. We're just trying to live life and not die, kind of thing. And so then somewhere in there, something gets mistaken, and I say it like a thought, but it's probably not a type of thought that you would go, oh, that's a thought. It's going to look like that's just fucking real. Like, I'm just bad, I'm wrong.
Yeah, because when people go there, like I felt when I worked through my things, it feels real. It feels like it's not even a feeling. It is my experience.
Yeah, it just is real. Like, I just am wrong. I am bad, or I am, whatever. I just using these words.
Like, I am that way. Like, I am not enough. And that's it. It's not even a feeling. The feeling like comes after it, to put it that way.
Kind of like that. Yeah. And so that aspect of the experience it just looks freaking real. And so I say, well, maybe not. Maybe you're just thinking that you're wrong. So then I would say, well, then it's like a mistake, because there is already nothing wrong. It's just people don't live that way now. And even worse, you could take that, what I just said, and turn it into a belief, and believe that I said, oh, well, there is already nothing wrong. And then I go around trying to tell myself that there is already nothing wrong, when in reality, I really think there's something wrong. That was just a sidebar.
Yes.